Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and happy September. Unless you're watching this video at some other point in time, in which case, happy whatever month that you're in. But this month we are in the month of September, and I am now focusing more on the direct writing concepts. Last month when I began these lessons, I focused a lot on the general ideas and kind of core philosophies that writers can implement. Now we're getting into the hands-on. Over the next 2 months, what I plan to do is cover a two-part lesson series. This is going to be the first part on creating protagonists, and the month of October I'm going to focus more on direct plot outlining. Why is that? Well, if you're following along and kind of going through the process here live as this goes on, November is right around the corner, and I know for a lot of writers, that's NaNoWriMo season. I'm not a big fan of it, but I know a lot of writers are. I know November is when everyone starts kind of, dust off the keyboard there. Maybe they haven't done a whole lot of writing throughout the year, and they try to crank out 50,000 words to catch up. They start their stories now in kind of the later fall and the winter months. And so this is to kind of help you out. If you are someone that's going to partake in NaNoWriMo, or if you're watching at some point in the future and you're just looking to, basically come up with a good plot foundation for your story, well, this series is going to be for you. Couple housekeeping items before I begin. Number one, if I seem a bit out of breath or just kind of going through this a bit quick, I actually I did this whole lesson a few minutes ago. For about 30 minutes I spoke, and what happened is my recording button was not turned on. In fact, I'm checking right now. Hey, it's recording. So I'm just recording this basically again, going through this lesson again. It's going to probably be a bit more abridged because I'm doing this a second time, but I'm hoping to cover all the same information. Other thing is, you'll notice this is my first PowerPoint style presentation. Last month I was doing the whiteboard, and I'm thinking that the PowerPoint might be a better way of teaching these lessons rather than standing in front of a PowerPoint or in front of a whiteboard. And so if you are watching this video and you happen to think this is a better way of doing it, if you could leave something like in the comments saying like, hey, go with the PowerPoint instead, stick with the style, that would be helpful, because I don't know, as kind of a learner, if this style works better than me standing in front of a whiteboard going over ideas. So if at the end of the video, if you want to leave a quick comment on that, that would be excellent. Just lets me know that I should keep going with this style. Okay? But let's begin. So this right here is going to be the foundational idea. And what I mean by that basically is we are going to be going over the core concepts and ideas. I know, more philosophy, more concepts, no actual practical hands-on part. Yes. The next 3 lessons after this, 2, 3, and 4 in this month's series, are going to be hands-on lessons where you're actually going to be doing workshops and exercises. And I'm going to have you have a pen and paper or have your word processor open, because you're going to want to take notes and kind of follow along with this. But today, unfortunately, is one more foundational lesson, because you need to understand these concepts first before we get into the hands-on. Okay? So let's begin. So the goal of the series is to establish a character's motivations. We're going to create your protagonist. Understand their motivations, both their surface and subconscious motivations. I'll go over that in just a minute, what that is, but basically that is the goal of the series, to understand their surface and subconscious, to develop those and refine them. And then with that, establish obstacles, challenges. Why is that? Well, if you're going to plot a story, you want to plot it around a character. And knowing their motivations and obstacles, that's kind of the whole point of plotting, isn't it? Like that's really what a plot is at the end of the day. It's a protagonist that has a certain goal, and there are a bunch of obstacles to get there, and then them overcoming the obstacles and getting to that goal is what the story is. So if we begin here with understanding our protagonist, with crafting a protagonist from the ground up, using their motivations, we've got a story. We got the elements to actually go ahead and plot, which is what I'll focus on in the month of October. We'll focus more on the actual plotting of it. But why start with character? So probably the big lesson of this video is, why do you want to begin with character? Because I know many people want to begin with plot. What happens, I think, for a lot of people is they tend to start with like a what if scenario when they write books, like what if X happened, what if X happened, what if X happened, then Y happened, and they kind of come up with this sort of plot device, right? Or people tend to begin with kind of the way Stephen King would advocate for it in his book On Writing, which is the idea of starting with two unrelated ideas and then having a story. For example, the unrelated idea of a small town, corruption and problems, and then mixing that with the idea of a giant dome being put over that small town, right? Two ideas, and then you have Under the Dome. Another Stephen King novel, Tommyknockers, right? Small town again, small town idea of a small town, mixed with this sort of weird superpower mind control effect that an alien relic has over the town. Two unrelated ideas put together, you have a plot. And people think that's a good way to start your story. And if you have an okay understanding of characters and motivations, if you already have that kind of like implicit idea, if it's just ingrained in you from repetitive practice, then you can maybe sort of pants your way into an okay story. For most of us, though, that is a recipe for disaster. So what I advocate for is when you decide to start a story, begin with the character instead. Main reason is it makes plotting your story easier. If I know my character, if I know their obstacles and their desires and their obstacles that prevent them from getting to those desires, I have a plot. I have the exact story laid out right there. So doing this first makes the process easier. And knowing your character requires, you need to know your character to understand their desires and their obstacles. That is merely the main idea. But on a very deeper level, if you begin a story with a character, you're going to have a much more engaging tale. If you think of your favorite books, favorite films, they all have characters that you root for. They're characters that have very grounded motivations, very established obstacles in most cases, and you root for them. Their motivations are very solid, and you root for them, and you want them to succeed. They're very likable characters, or unlikable. There are plenty of characters that are well developed that are simply unlikable characters. I love those. I love a character that you kind of hate, that's sort of like a bad person, someone that in real life you would never deal with, but in the story it makes it very, very engaging. I love that. So, understandably, it behooves you to begin with character. At least from what I advocate for, this is really what you should do. And so, when I start a story, what often happens is it begins with a concept first. For me, I don't actually begin with a character, at least initially. My spark for a story often comes from a scene. A scene will play in my head, and an idea will form, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that's a cool scene. I want to write a story about this thing, right? Or I want to come up with some general theme, maybe, perhaps a theme, perhaps an idea, maybe something I want to explore more. That's how stories tend to first start for me. Before I put anything on the page, it sort of kicks around my mind. And I think for a lot of people, it does tend to go that way too. I don't think most people start with that what if right away. I think there is usually like some sort of like general thing that comes to you. And, when you're daydreaming, whenever, and it just comes to you and you go, that'd be an interesting thing to write about. Once that happens, I then begin with the protagonist. So this is how it's worked for me, and I think this will work well for you. Is I'll begin with the protagonist and motivations. This is what this video is going to be, or this series is going to be all about. Then I come up with their obstacles. Again, this series is going to be all about these two things: the obstacles and the motivations. And lastly, I start plotting the story out. I actually start going through the plot. That will be next month's series. So the second half of the series, the second half of this overall 8-part series will be on plotting. But for this month, it's going to be the middle two concepts. So let's begin. When understanding character and motivations, there's a central question you need to ask yourself. And this is not just in the plotting phase. This is throughout the entire story. Whatever you're working on throughout this entire process, you need to constantly be asking yourself this question. What does my character want? I don't care if you are in the middle of your story. Ask yourself, what does your character want? You should already know it, but it helps to always ask, because sometimes as you write, your character motivations perhaps change. Perhaps your character grows and their motivation changes throughout the story. This happens to be what's happening right now in my current novel. But ask yourself, what does your character want? And then, as a secondary question, ask yourself, what does your character actually want? And then we're going to get into more of what this means in just a moment. But this question, or this two-part question, you need to know this inside and out before you plot. This is really what this entire section of this entire 4-part video series is going to be on, is what do they want? What do they actually want? And when I talk about that, I'm referring to the Iceberg Concept, both surface desires and subconscious desires. I think most of you watching have probably heard the Iceberg Concept. It comes from 19th century psychology, with like Sigmund Freud, who talked about subconscious desires and like Jungian psychology and all that stuff. This tends to be where the idea of people having both explicit and stated goals and sort of subconscious things they're not really aware of. And what happened was literature took it over, and now it's become kind of a staple of literature, and it works well. And so when I talk about what a character wants, I'm talking about their surface desires and motivations. And when I talk about what they actually want, I'm referring to the subconscious motivations. Okay. These are not, the subconscious stuff is not necessarily plot driven, but it affects how they go about their story. And so I'll give an example right now. I'm sure everyone's seen Star Wars. So Star Wars Episode 4, right? Luke Skywalker, what is his motivation? Well, to rescue Princess Leia from the Death Star, right? That is the surface desire. If you were asked what he wants, that's what he wants to do. But now, what does he actually want? What does Luke Skywalker actually want? And well, subconsciously, what he really wants is he wants an adventure, right? He lives on a moisture farm with his aunt and uncle. He wants to become a pilot. He wants the excitement of fighting, right? Like he wants to do something more with his life. He wants that sense of adventure. That's really what he wants. And then as the story goes on, he wants to become a Jedi as this thing kind of evolves. But that's what he wants. That is his subconscious desire. He wants the adventure. It's very similar to like The Hobbit, where what does Bilbo Baggins want? Well, he wants to help these dwarves steal gold from Smaug, right? But what does he really want? Like, what does Bilbo Baggins actually want? He wants an adventure. He wants to be part of something, a part of something. Even in the beginning of the story, although he resists the idea of joining the party, of going on this adventure, deep down, you get the sense as it goes on that that's what he wants. He actually wants the adventure. He wants the adrenaline rush. He wants that thrill. He's lived, I think he's 30-something years old, I think, in the story. At the beginning of the story, Bilbo Baggins, when Gandalf in the crew come to see him, and he's lived this shire, right? This very sort of calm, pleasant life, and now he wants that adventure. He wants to sort of be tested in a sense, even if in the beginning he does not actually want that. And so when I talk about what a character wants, what they don't want, this is kind of the idea I'm trying to get across here. And I'm going to give one more example right now. Harry Potter. Okay, if I was to ask, and I'm going to talk about just the first book, just because it makes it simple. What does Harry want in the first book? Well, it's to stop Voldemort. More specifically, he wants to get the Philosopher's Stone. Okay. But now, what does Harry Potter actually want? When J.K. Rowling crafted the character, what was Harry's deep desire that she kind of put into him? He wants a family. Ultimately, Harry Potter wants a family. He wants a group of people that he can call a family, where he can belong. He's, as an orphan, has lived his whole life without a family. He's lived with extended family that are, we'll say abusive, just abusive, and he's never had a sense of belong. He's always felt like the outcast. He wants a family. He wants some place where he can belong. And in fact, J.K. Rowling did something very brilliant here. Is in the first book, and it's also shown in the movie as well, at one point there's a mirror. And this mirror in the book and in the movie, what it does is it shows your deepest desire. It shows what you actually want. Very cleverly, J.K. Rowling decided to create a mirror and to actually show the audience exactly what Harry Potter wanted, which was a family. When he looks in that mirror, he doesn't see himself stopping Voldemort. He doesn't see himself getting the Philosopher's Stone. He doesn't see himself achieving some sort of glory or something like that, or becoming the head of a class, or becoming, I think Ron's was like head boy when he looks in the mirror or something. He wants a family. His deep desire is he wants a family, some place to belong. And it was amazing to see that shown in the movie, and also obviously in the book as well. And so I hope this gets across the idea of what a conscious and subconscious desire is for your character, because throughout the rest of the series, that's what you are going to develop for your character. It is come up with their conscious and subconscious desire, and then we're going to start working on plotting around that. Okay? Quick recap. So, to begin the plotting process, you need to establish your character first. This is the main idea I want to get across, is start with defining who your character is and what their motivations are, and then focusing specifically on what their surface and subconscious motivations are, and understanding what both of those are. Well, understand what a surface is and understand what a subconscious motivation is. If you take both these ideas, just these two ideas, away from you at the end of this video here, you're good. You will be able to do the rest of this series, and you will be right on track. But I need you to understand this first before we go into that. All right. And that's going to really be the end of this video. So right here, we're done. The video is over here at this point. Next week, like I said, we're getting hands-on. This is when we're going to start getting hands-on, but I want you to understand and know these concepts first, so that way next week we can start getting very, very deep into that. So next week, bring a pad and paper, pull up your word processor. You're going to be doing some exercises here. This is where it gets very fun, and this is where I hope you get a lot out of it. I hope this is very, very helpful for you. I will actually be going through these exercises and showing an example of what I've done. Basically, I'm going to be giving examples as I go through this of my current novel that I'm working on, of one of the protagonists of the story. Why am I doing that? Well, I'm lazy. I still have all my character notes from when I was working on them. I still have them in a folder, and it's easy for me just to pull this up and just show you exactly what I did. It saves me a lot of work, but it also will help to see how I've used this process. And I think it's important. I think it's important that I show you how I've used it. That way, you know, I'm someone that kind of, you know, walks the walk. I don't just talk the talk. It can be very helpful to actually see how this is done in practice. So I will see you all next week. I do hope this lesson makes a lot of sense. I hope this is very helpful for you. If you did like this, if it was very helpful for you, I will ask you to just give this video kind of a thumbs up and a like, just so I know the content works, but also I know that doing things in this style will be helpful. I want to know, again, if me presenting this sort of information in a PowerPoint style tends to work for you. So if it does, just leave me a like or send something in the comments. Just be like, hey, yep, I like how you presented this. This works well. Keep going with the style. That way, as I go through the coming weeks and months, I can do it this way, and I know that this is going to make the most sense. It's going to reach the most audience, and it's going to be the most helpful for you. Okay? So I'll see you all next week. Until then, have a very safe and happy week. And if you are watching this at some point in the future, hey, click on the next video in the series and follow along. All right? So have a good day.